Aren't you already seeing our smiling faces on the internet?
Wait.
Oh,
Something is
look.
happening.
What did I do?
All right, so, Stephen, again, you were telling us about the difference between an evil campaign and murder hobos.
Me not know. No, I know. I feel like I've covered this twice already. There is not a whole lot of difference between evil campaign and murder hobos in the very broad sort of moral sense of it. The game that we play assumes certain.
Sorry, Stephen. Someone's saying there's no sound now.
All right, let me look at my. Oh, hold on, I've got to actually do it on my.
Oh wait, John Bastille has sound. Okay, never mind. You can pick up. There's no reason to repeat again what we're talking about. Wait a second.
New question? Okay, new question. Caleb T. Gordon asks... Oh, did I just... No. Caleb T. Gordon asks, evil tends to be more selfish than normal. When writing an evil AP, how do you keep the party focused on the same goals? Is there any way that you can avoid characters betraying or turning on one another?
Yes. So one is I make the quest givers even more selfish than the PCs could dream of being. And then I always make sure that they have the upper hand, that they have something absolutely that the PCs want that they can't gain by themselves. In a lot of ways, a lot of adventures work that way, but I do it a little bit more so. I also keep kind of the competition against outward rivals up a little bit. So, for instance, for Queen and Empire, almost right off the bat, you get rival courtiers, each wanting the PCs to work for them, and they need to make choices about which person they're going to work for. So in a lot of ways, it sort of distracts them from going out and trying to murder hobo their way through the city or whatnot, because they immediately have to face choices, and those choices, both choices can gain them what they want in the long run, but they need to weigh those things and figure out what side is going to give them a little bit of a better deal. So yeah, just always keep them on their toes. Never make them stop thinking about the things that they really want and how to get them. The same kind of things you do in normal campaigns as well, if you want to keep the PCs on track.
That actually sounds super refreshing from a GM's point of view, because so often in a good campaign, the PCs just have to stop anytime they meet a quest giver and are like, can we trust him? But in an evil campaign, the answer is no. But we have to. And that will save so much of that time and debate. Right.
I mean, one of the main goals of this is as the PCs come to the capital of Cheliax, Agorian, and they figure out that there's going to be this huge war. And the problem with war is most people are pawns. They're just nameless people that die on battlefields in the name of Queen and Empire, and how to not be that person. How to be able to rise up and gain the notice that they need so they can do important things rather than just being thrown at some front somewhere as cannon fodder. And that is not only a powerful motivation in narration, it's been a powerful motivation throughout history. So,
Imperiosaur asks, has anyone ever been too evil for one of your campaigns?
I think a lot of people have been too stupid. But too evil, no.
Characters, you mean?
Well, both? Characters are people too.
All right.
They're just imaginary people.
Oof, things are getting a little political in chat. Let's leave that and see what happens.
D. Caldemeyer asks you, has writing for 2 adventure paths motivate you to tell a story on a smaller scale, such as a module or a PFS scenario?
I've been motivated to tell stories on a smaller scale within my own writing, which of course doesn't earn me coin nearly as much. But I've been working on other personal projects as well. So yeah, I tend to work on those smaller things for me that might seem or might see publication at some future time. But usually when I go after a big project, I'm a game designer. I do this for pay. I'd like some money so I can go on vacation or go on a date or two. So yeah, because I'm a romantic.
Evil with a heart.
That's right.
I asked you this at the eviL seminar that was at last PaizoCon, but that didn't get recorded, so I'm going to repeat it. As a GM of a heroic adventure, I know how to do like micro motivations. Just like if I need an encounter to happen now, I could just say there is an innocent person in peril in this alleyway. Go, and I'll be able to predict what my PCs are doing. But I don't know if I would have that same instinct as a GM for an eviL campaign. So what would be the eviL equivalent of that kind of micro encounter?
A threat. I mean, you can take a look at both history and real life. I mean, go and look at the stupid things that motivate people into violence, into everyday life. Usually it's because somebody comes up and they threaten you. They want to take away your stuff. eviL campaigns, in a lot of ways, good campaigns are all about showing off, your good nature and your heroism. eviL campaigns are all about your own personal power, keeping it and expanding it. So you either show an evil character an easy way, typically through violence, to increase their own personal standing and power, or you threaten them with somebody who's trying to take that away. eviL campaigns are selfish campaigns. That's the only real difference. The motivations are purely selfish.
And Caleb T. Jordan asks, should the whole party be masterminds? Can't one or two be the chaotic evil minions kept in control by more... Wait, what? Be kept in control by the more in control masterminds?
Yeah, of course, right? Because we're playing a game and everybody's playing a character. As long as that's okay with the person playing that character who's kept in control. If I was playing a game with Adam Daigle and Adam was all like, I want you to play the monster that I keep in the box, right? And that I threaten people with and everything else. And then you come out and do your thing. In a lot of ways, I like and trust Adam more than most people in this world. And I'd be all like, oh yeah, I would totally play that character. That would be fun. But most people who, work all week and go to their Pathfinder game to unwind and everything else, they want more autonomy, right? They want to be able to have total control of their character the entire time. But if you're one of those folks in a game that doesn't mind walking away and taking a bunch of smoke breaks and then or whatever breaks and then coming back and raging out, yeah, absolutely, you can play that thing. It's all about the kind of character that you're comfortable with playing. Because while eviL campaigns might deal with some aspects that may make certain people squeamish to deal with on a narrative level, at the end of the day, everybody plays this game to have fun, and you have to make sure that you're creating a character that is your idea of fun or why play.
Jay Franklin asks, banana? I think it was all the minion talk.
Yeah, Imperiosaur asks for reals. What's your favorite thing you've designed for Pathfinder so far?
Oh boy, that's really, really, really difficult. I'm very proud. There's a lot of things in Pathfinder that I've designed that I'm very proud of. Some of which I think will be absolutely controversial, and some of which I can't talk about right now. For Queen and Empire, I'm really happy with. it was one of those stories that I definitely wanted to write. I was very happy that I was asked to write, and I'm very happy with how it came out. I'm extremely pleased with how Rob McCreary did a masterful job of developing it. As far as rule stuff go, right now, and partially because I'm playing one, the investigator class I like a lot. That's a class that I really fought to have put into that book. There was a little bit of like, well, I don't know if we can do that, and I think I think it's an extremely fun class. I started working with Pathfinder in the Advanced Player's Guide as a freelancer, and put a lot of things in that book that I'm also very proud of. You're asking me to pick one of my children. I just can't do it.
Investigator was a pretty good pick. I love that class.
Oh, good. Yeah,
it's way too much fun. There's something magical about picking up a D6 every time I'm making a check and just being like, yeah.
Yeah.
On a scale of sneakiness, how sneaky is the investigator?
Well, it's a matter of how much you build it, or how you build it. He can definitely be the sneakiest sneaker in the sneakerverse, as long as you build it that way. But he's probably nothing compared to the Unchained Rogue.
Could we have an entire adventure path set in the Sneakiverse?
I think that might get really boring. There might be entire sort of adventures where you just kind of sneak past them, and which doesn't make for really good gameplay.
If you're rolling for initiative, you've failed.
It's an entire AP of nothing but chase scenes, but the chase scenes are all stealth checks.
Yeah, and it's, what did you guys do this week at your Pathfinder adventure? A lot, but nobody saw it.
I was a bush for like 6 hours,
right.
And then I walked.
If nobody hears the rogue sneaking through the forest, does he make a sound? Yeah, I don't know. So
this one's kind of specific. Oh, go ahead, Param. You're not Param. You're Alex.
I've stolen Param's mantle for today. 12 and a half hour day says, I've been curious about this for a long time. There were a set of stealth rules that were in playtest, and they kind of disappeared. Do you know where they went? Like, there was alternate stealth rules on the forums that were playtested, and then they just sneakerversed off.
Yeah, we playtest them. We got to a point where I was very happy with it. Other people were very happy with it. People above me decided that they weren't happy with it, and made the changes fiat.
Okay.
So they sneaked off into the sneakerverse.
They sneaked off in the sneakerverse. They live in ways. As a game designer, I'm always tweaking and working on things. I'm personally, outside of Paizo, I'm working on my own game right now. Some of those rules will probably end up being in some way, shape, or form. I do want stealth rules to be clearer and more fun and less techy, and I know that's a very sort of that's a huge balancing act, which is very difficult. But yeah, in a lot of ways, I would love to see. I like fooling around with rules. I like trying to figure out new solutions to old problems and creating better modes of play. And I think I was on the right path of that with the help of many very helpful and fantastic playtesters who took my initial drafts and pounded them and played them and told me where I was going right and where I was going wrong. So you will see versions of those rules at some point in time somewhere.
Any reason they didn't show up in Unchained?
Because.
All right.
Reasons.
Shifting gear.
Are they reasons beyond our comprehension?
No, they're just reasons.
You should have said yes, man. You should have said yes.
More Tonodos. Still not sure how to pronounce this. Will we see Zarta in Hell's Vengeance? Zarda's famous character from Cheliax and Pathfinder Society.
Zarda Draylene.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't know. Definitely doesn't show up in my adventure path contribution, but I can't say yes or no. My guess is no, but Rob McCreary would probably be a better person to ask that question because he's the master of that whole path. He knows everything.
If Hell's Vengeance didn't take place in Cheliax, what are different directions you could have gone with an evil campaign adventure?
Well, I'm going to run an adventure for evil characters at PaizoCon that's set in Nadal. I like that place. I like those goth kids that live in Nadal. There are all sorts of places that you can run evil adventure paths, but my two favorite are Cheliax and Nadal. I like the either the gothy or the devilly kinds of evil.
Where would the worst place to run an evil adventure path be?
Plane of Fire.
I don't know. Anytime I think of a place that's like, where's the goodiest goody place I can, I'm like, oh, but you could have subterfuge, and it could be awesome, and it could deal with heresies and terrible things that are hidden secrets and even the most lawful good enclaves. No, I think evil spreading everywhere. It can be anywhere. It's the great binder. It's like the Force but cooler.
Yeah, so Jacob Blackman suggests Enderan, but like you're saying, if you're evil in Enderan, you are surrounded. Like you're desperate.
If you're evil in Enderan, I think that's just political intrigue in pre-colonial America or colonial America, right? I mean, you can still write a really good evil campaign where you have to be quiet about it, right? Then you can be the evilest sneaky in the sneakerverse sort of thing, where you're just working behind the scenes to in something that's a little bit more serious than Blackadder, but kind of this Blackadder-esque, I'm going to stab people and blame it on on my rivals and make sure that all of my blacksmiths get all of the best contracts and everything else. You could do some really crazy Benedict Arnold stuff, which I think would be fun.
I am going to make the call out for any last questions we have for Stephen. I've got one question here from Jacob Blackman, but I don't think we're going to get very far into the conversation with it. So anyone in chat, we're going to be wrapping up soon, so get your questions in now. That question from Jacob Blackman was, could you sing Highway to Hell like you did at Owen and LJ Stevens' anniversary party?
Oh, right now? No, I need the music going. But if I'm at a convention and you can get me at karaoke, right, I can do, like, the three best songs I do at karaoke are Highway to Hell, Danzig's Mother, and Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. And I would, as long as there's music going and beer flowing and good laughs to be had, I will go to any karaoke place and sing any of those songs for folks that want to do it. And you probably get me to sing other songs too.
Are there any karaoke places near PaizoCon?
Yeah, I'm sure we could figure that out.
All right, and then, can that be a lottery event?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we can do that.
Just go. We could take Ben Looms' Sirenscape stuff and just do it there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we could try to figure out how to do karaoke at PaizoCon. I'm sure that's a possibility. Might have an in. Yeah. So you said things were getting political in the chat room. What was going on there? Now I'm curious. I wasn't looking.
Someone was talking about the Empire from Star Wars, and somebody else compared them to Space North Korea.
Ooh.
And I was worried that was going to open up a can of worms, but it did not.
All right.
It says that if Steven is singing Highway to Hell, then Ryan has to sing the G.I. Joe theme song.
I knew that.
I feel like you could
version
probably
from the movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Darren Caldemeyer says, any special seminars at PaizoCon you can talk about?
So no, not right now because we don't have, or that's not true. I have not seen the seminar list. So yeah, I can't leak that because I have no information on it right now. I can guarantee you that there will be great seminars at PaizoCon, and if they're not, then we'll just go out in the parking lot and have conversations or something. I don't know. PaizoCon will be a blast. But I don't know what the seminars are yet. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't tell you. Because, I'm a stand-up guy that way. Ish.
I think we're ready to wrap things up, Stephen. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we hadn't brought up yet?
No, other than whether good or evil, Ultimate Intrigue is a great book, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. There's a lot of cool things in there to make your campaign, especially if you want to do something a little bit more political, or that deals with more stealth and subterfuge and all of that a lot better. If you want to have philosophical arguments as combats, right? We've got that in there as well. So if you haven't checked it out, you check it out. I think people will be very happy with what you see in there, and it will probably help you run a better Hell's Vengeance adventure path if you want to spin off and fly down flights of intrigue and evil fancy.
All evil vigilante party.
Yeah, there you go. They can hide as paladins in the daytime or in the nighttime, and then come out as evil people in the day. Said, I don't know how that would work.
All right, well, Stephen, is there anything you'd like to shout out to? Anything cool going on? I know you were talking about you're developing a game. Is that anything that you can announce, or is that a little too far in the future?
It's a little bit too far in the future. It's going to be I like role-playing games. I'm working on a role-playing game. It'll be done when it's done. I don't really have a production schedule. In a lot of ways, it allows me to sketch ideas. It's named in the same way that my blog is named. My blog that I just restarted, that I haven't updated after my first post, even though I keep on picking at this other one. And it's called Delve. And it's just sort of my thoughts on it, on the genre and how I like my games to be. I don't think it's. I don't really have any big plans for publishing, but I'm enjoying doing it. I'm also I'm working on something for Raging Swan right now. I'm trying to take a little less freelance. In fact, I need to get that done, or Creighton's going to kill me. He's not going to kill me, but we've been friends for a long time, so I don't want to let him down. I've done a lot of extra freelance this last year, and I'll probably end up doing more for various companies because I enjoy creating things. And I'm looking forward to Gen Con this year. I think Gen Con is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. I think PaizoCon is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy all of the crazy stuff we're putting there, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of my friends and making new friends at those places.
Alex, I forgot. Are you going to PaizoCon?
Yay!
I even got my PaizoCon PFS GMing assignments. I'm so excited.
Woo-hoo.
Ready.
Is this your first PaizoCon?
This is my second. I was at last PaizoCon.
Oh, we just didn't meet for whatever
No,
reason, or we did. I don't.
No, I think we hung out in the morning when you were at the signing table, and you didn't had coffee yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad. You don't want to talk to me before coffee.
Yeah, that's what you told me, so I walked away slowly. Although, actually, I went the entire, 3 out of the 4 days without seeing Wes once. Apparently, he was running some kind of, big game upstairs, and locked in a door, and nobody saw him, and it was great.
Oh, is that what he told people? Because what I heard... Oh, no.
Still alive.
Oh, man.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. This was a lot of fun, and I think this was really educational. So anyone that was on the fence about Hell's Vengeance, they should check this out, because you've got great insight into the evil mind.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. So, Alex, we will be right back to talk about the news and to remind people why you're so great after this.
He did it. I guess.
Spencer.
Do you have a dog? You. Oh, look, we're sharing a frame. We're frame buddies.
In the Pathfinder news segment, we talk about the latest happenings for the Pathfinder role-playing game, or the Pathfinder universe, the Pathfinder brand, from Paizo, from all the third-party publishers and second-party licensees that are contributing to what makes Pathfinder just this massive behemoth of a role-playing brand right now that we all just love absolutely every aspect of. Before we get into the two really interesting news items that came up, there's one that I'm going to call, and I hope you're not offended by this, Alex, a smaller news item, but a perfectly relevant news item to who we've got joining us as our special co-host, Everyman Gamer and Rogue Genius Games. What's going on there?
So Owen and I had a conversation maybe a month ago. I'm doing a big secret Rogue Genius Games project. It's really big, and it's got I think I'm at 80 pages of spells and 3 base classes and stuff. So nice. It's really big, and when it gets announced, I'm going to be going crazy about it. But as we were working close on that, we started talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, if so and so and I always say that if we thought about it, we would have partnered up and done some kind of joint thing." And the conversation just kind of took a turn where I was like, well, wait a minute, are you offering me to join up with you? Because is that something that would help me out? And so we started looking at the numbers and all of the different crunch. And so my catalog now is basically listed under Owen's company, Rogue Genius Games. I'm still my own independent company, technically. I list with him, and anything I choose to do isn't he doesn't knock on my door and say, "Where's that manuscript for Ultimate Bath Toys or whatever?" And yeah, I still choose what I do, but we kind of teamed up in order to further promote ourselves to our customers, because we actually looked at it, and people who buy my products don't really buy Owen's products. And people who buy Owen's products don't really buy my products, which is really weird, because I've been doing a lot of player companion freelance lately. So we're already the same brand, not really brand, but our styles are already so similar. I was like, wow, there are people who buy my stuff but don't buy his. Okay, but you should really try it. But okay, so we decided to do the join up. I had a Kickstarter that I'm planning for my first big hardcover product for Everyman Gaming, and then we have a big secret project that, if I told the name, it would totally give away what we're doing. But it's really cool, and it's really awesome, and I think that there are people who wanted this out of Paizo, but they're going to get it out of people who work for Paizo, which is pretty cool.
Well, I'm super intrigued, because I have no idea what you're talking about. When
That's
will you
good.
be able to announce that?
Well, right now I'm building the spell list. There are 75 pages of spells, and the list of the spells is like 5 pages long. So when I get that done, I have to write like 2 pages of magic items, and then I'm writing like favored class bonuses, and then I'm sending everything to Owen, and I imagine in a couple of weeks he'll let me start going crazy about it. So soon. But trademark soon. Like, maybe, don't know how soon is.
Sure, horse is looking suspicious soon.
Yes.
So there's 80 pages of spells and only 2 pages of magic items?
Honestly, like, for the thing to work, it doesn't need a whole lot of magic items. It really just needs the spells. And I can't say more without giving away why that is, but it totally would. And to answer Mike Myers' question, LJ is totally probably going to do layout because it's a Rogue Genius Games product. It's not Everyman Gaming. Yes. There are no Kitsune in Peacock Cloaks. I did a product way back, the Kitsune Compendium. It's all about Kitsune, and it's actually what my Kickstarter is for. It's to take that concept and spread it to 4 or more races to just have like 20 pages of crazy amounts of fluff about them. And I had Jacob do a character with a peacock cloak, and he told me it was the most frustrating thing ever to draw. And every now and then I like to remind him of the peacock cloak. I have to see if I can get a picture of it and put it on the No Direction page, because it is a beautiful cloak, but it took him a day to make the cloak. A whole day. Yeah, I'll put it up on the No Direction page later, and you can see this gorgeous peacock cloak. It's great. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I actually counted today in preparation for the show. When I was last on, I think I had like 3 Paizo credits, but not all of them are announced, but I think I'm up to 12 or 13 now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I've been really busy. Really, really busy. But it's great. It's a great kind of busy.
It's kind of shocking to think that last PaizoCon was your first PaizoCon, because now it feels like you practically live at Paizo.
That would be really cool. Wink, wink. I would love to live at Paizo. Wink, wink. We'll see. So
debates going on in chat about whether Rogue Genius Games and Everyman Gaming products have a different feel or not.
I think we have a different look. I think in terms of mechanical stuff, we both do a lot of like rules crunch, like Jacob is saying. But when I do my stuff, I focus on like a really bright and colorful and almost like, I don't want to say cartoony, but it's very like graphic oriented. I try to make my stuff really like bright and in your face, because most publishers do the opposite. They do like the really grim, dark, I'm holding an ancient tome. I'm like, no, you're holding something cool and action. So I think we have a different feel, but the content is very similar. So let's talk about the news before I blush. You want to? Hey, you can have me on whenever you want. Like, it's really easy to get me on Wednesdays.
It's true. Anyway, like, I guess just to get behind the curtains, I've contemplated, because you and Alex, you and Anthony are often available, and it's like, should we just rotate them in on a regular basis? Well, we are going to have you on again in April, which we'll talk about in the shoutout section at the end. But don't be offended if we're not inviting you on as often as we could.
It's fine. It's not like I have my own show or anything to do, and 2 blog articles a week, and whatever crazy freelance projects I'm doing. Did I ever tell you that getting sick a couple weeks ago really hurt my schedule?
I think you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, it stunk. But however, it means I got to take that awesome recording with the Marlows and put it out, and I really like that.
Cool.
It was fun. Have you listened to it yet?
I have not.
Single tear.
I'm sorry. For whatever reason, my podcatcher doesn't like the Private Sanctuary episode specifically, so I'll download it and then it just won't appear in my music folder, and so I've got to go back, find it, download it manually off the website instead of off my podcatcher. It's really annoying. So I just re-listened to the Slayer episode this week, which is like 2 episodes back, or is it the one before the Marlows?
I don't know.
It's a recent episode, but it's not the most recent.
Which one was the Marlows?
Marlows came out last week.
Yeah, the one after that was that the one
after that?
No, before that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I said after. I think we either did a class or a god. I think we did Did we do the investigator? No. I don't remember. I'm
Really
sorry.
important. Yeah. Curse of
Yeah.
Crimson Throne Special Edition.
Yes, okay. It is. It's a thing.
So we weren't really used to getting Paizo news or Pathfinder news from Gamma, the Gamma Trade Show. Gamma Trade Show happens every year, but it's a trade show. It's where people who work in the industry get together, chat about trade stuff. It's not usually where things are announced unless it's really product specific. I like that Param is just mysteriously swooping in and giving us.
Apparently Param became a 6th level psychic and is just telepathying things in our brains now.
Oh. Well, then stop talking. He says that you can't hear him. Anyway, so the Gamma Trade Show this year, for whatever reason, just kind of became a much more significant one, not just for Pathfinder, but just overall. This was a very news-heavy Gamma Trade Show and might change how people view the Gamma Trade Show going forward. Specifically of interest to Pathfinder fans were 2 big announcements. One, we are getting our 2nd hardcover special edition Adventure Path. First one, obviously, being Rise of the Rune Lords, which got not only the special edition, but the extra special edition, which was the giant metal lockbox book that looks just like Karzook's spellbook, and it's fantastic and amazing, but it's also expensive, and there is no word yet on whether we're going to get the equivalent of that for Curse of the Crimson Throne. But otherwise, we are getting the bells and whistles, the really cool version, or sorry, not the bells and whistles, the other one, the collected edition. It's a hardcover. It updates all of the rules to Pathfinder, because Curse of the Crimson Throne was first released as a 3.5 book, and uses feedback from people that have run the game and have very serious thoughts about this, because this is actually probably the 2nd most popular 3.5 adventure path after after Rise of the Rune Lords. And it's funny, when Rise of the Rune Lords, the special edition, came out, one of the things that Paizo, especially West, wanted to emphasize is that they're not going to be doing this on a regular basis. And it's true. It's been 4 years since the Rise of the Rune Lords special edition came out. It seems like it's a good time for another one. People will not be dropping their Adventure Path subscriptions just to start getting them when they're on hardcover, because obviously this is something that's only going to come out for special occasions and when the timing's right. And the timing's definitely right for Curse of the Crimson Thrones, because this is set in Cheliax. It's where we've got our first real taste for Cheliax. And look at that. We've got all kinds of great Cheliax support coming out, starting last year and going on into this year because of the Hell's Vengeance and Hell's Rebels adventure paths. So yes, it does technically mean that we are getting 3 Cheliax adventure paths being released all around the same time. No one's forcing you to play all 3 of them. Just know that you can choose from a variety of adventure paths set in Cheliax, and depending on whether you want to be rebels, like actual courtesans, or flat out evil, you now have your pick. You've got the 3 flavors of Cheliax to choose from.
Yeah, it's actually quite cool, in my opinion. I feel like it's a lot more work to take a 3.5 adventure path and actually change it to Pathfinder. Like, yeah, Pathfinder and 3.5 are compatible, but the level of compatibility between something that was made from core rulebook 3.5 era to something that was made like now post Ultimate Intrigue, like the power level is really different. And so taking all of that stuff and just making it easier to run this adventure path is a great idea. I'm glad that it wasn't a one-time thing for Rise of the Rune Lords only.
Someone in chat is questioning whether it takes place in Cheliax, and I'm feeling like...
I thought it took place in Varissia. I was pretty sure the first few ones did.
What? Why did I think this... Then what was the first Cheliax adventure path?
Wasn't that Council of Thieves? No,
yes.
It was Council of Thieves?
I think it was Council of Thieves.
Why do I know that? I'm such a Pathfinder geek now.
Set in Cheliax, which is the last of the 3.5 adventure paths. Well, then it would have been a great time to release that one, but they're releasing the 2nd adventure path, so they're going, at least for now.
I don't know.
They've gone in order.
Varissia is kind of like the classic Pathfinder flavor. It's where Pathfinder began and was born. So putting a Varissia updated adventure path in the middle of Year of Cheliax and crazy Lovecraftian horrors seems pretty smart to me. Because
people are discussing how crazy I've gone.
Pretty crazy. But for whatever reason, I'm the one who's waving his hands all around, so I can't be that mad.
All right. Well, thanks for the correction in chat, guys. I did not catch that, so I'm glad that it was caught before this was published as a podcast, and I could actually correct myself.
Yes. Let's talk about the Pocket Edition.
All right. So this is just so out of nowhere that Jason Bowman says the first he heard about this was at the Gamma Trade Show in the announcement.
Which was pretty great.
Pocket editions of 2 of Pathfinder's best-selling hardcovers, the core rulebook and the first bestiary. So what this means is that they're going to be soft cover. They're going to have the exact same content, no new content, and they are going to be much lower priced. The core rulebook will be $24.99. The bestiary will be $19.99.
They're a little smaller too, right? I think Pocket is actually like not necessarily put it in your pocket, but smaller. I
believe
quite know
that as well. I don't have the exact dimensions written in the press release that we've got, so I can't tell you exactly how much smaller, but I get the impression they're going to be smaller as well.
I'm really excited for this. It seems cool, but like I'm looking at my Pathfinder core rulebook, and I have to replace it every couple of years because it keeps falling apart. I'm really curious to see how they're going to solve that in paperback form, because I always thought the paperbacks were less sturdy, but maybe I'm wrong.
Paperback is a less sturdy binding style. Maybe there have been advancements in paperback technology, paperback manufacturing technology, but I think the big important thing is that paperbacks are cheaper.
That's true.
Like, if you are a high school student who's getting into his first RPG, maybe he got the beginner's box as a gift or through Humble Bundle, and now you're like, all right, I want to try full-on Pathfinder. Oh, this core rulebook is expensive. So having a $24.99 alternative gets more people playing the game, and that's the purpose of the core rulebook, is to get people playing the game. And if your main way of playing the game is a barrier to entry, that's a problem. This is a nice alternative.
That's true. I mean, it might cost you more money in the long run because you're going to have to replace it more because it's paperback, but I feel like you're right in that the product really isn't aimed at the long-term player. I feel like it's aimed more at like getting new people in, or as they talk about on their product description, giving you a nice little book to carry with you when you're going to society play.
That's true, too.
And Param would like to remind us that if you add together the cost of the two pocketbooks, then it is cheaper than the cost of the 5th edition Player's Handbook, which is $50 and $24.99 for the core rulebook, and $20.99 for the bestiary is $45. So you would save money playing Pathfinder. Play Pathfinder, save money.
Yeah, so as far as barriers to entry, being expensive is one, and being more expensive than the competition is another one. So having that as an alternative, again, so not only an alternative to regular core rulebook, but an alternative to the alternative, which is Dungeons and Dragons, that's a great business decision, I think.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like, if you're playing 5th edition, you need to have the Player's Handbook and the GM's Guide and the Bestiary. That's like $50 each per book, $150 to get into 5th edition, whereas with this you can buy all of the rules a GM needs, all of the rules a player needs, and an entire book of monsters for less than the cost of one of those 3 other books. It's a third. Like it's a great deal. Like, this seems to be the year of Paizo's fiscal blessings. Abadar has taken over Paizo. Let the gold coins rain.
How do you feel about the bestiary getting the pocket treatment right out of the gate?
I think it's a smart plan. The bestiary came out, within months of the core rulebook originally, right?
Yeah, so core rulebook came out at Gen Con, and the bestiary came out in the traditional bestiary slot of November, but actually came out in like December.
I feel like it makes sense. It's smart. These products have been out for, 6 years now? They should come out really close together, especially since you're really just taking something old and retrofitting it to a new layout, which, by the way, Paizo layout guys, you're champions. You're champions. It's really hard to lay things out, and it's harder to change a layout you already have done. Speaking from experience.
We've got some people in chat speculating on the binding. I just went back over the slides that announce the products. It does not say exactly how they're going to be bound. So there's a chance that a book this thick will have some structural integrity problems, which, you know what, considering the big selling point is the price, that it's an inexpensive option, Inexpensive and cheap are synonyms for a reason. I doubt they're going to cheap out completely, but if you're looking for sturdy, pay the extra money and get the good version.
Yeah. Or pay the extra money and get a laptop. Laptops won't fall apart on you.
That's true. Was there another bit of news? That's all I've got. You've got your finger on a different pulse sometimes, though. Alex, do you know any other news we could talk about right now?
Any other news that we could talk about? I actually can't think of anything off the top of my head. We could talk about Param having the flu.
No. How's your game going? I know you are playing in the...
I'm in 2 adventure paths. We want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. I'm in Carrying Crown, and I'm in Reign of Winter right now.
Reign of Winter was the one that I was stumbling on. It's the same one that Param's in. You guys are both in Book 1, right?
Actually, we just beat Book 1. We're in Book 2 now. We're, like, on the trek trying to get to the big city, which is great. We've had a lot of fun with the role-playing. I've had a lot of issue with how the wealth distribution in this adventure. We're literally carrying, like, probably close to 10,000 gold coins worth of stuff because we haven't found a town big enough to sell it in.
Mm.
So we're actually getting ready to go to our first big town, and we're all super excited. It's like, we should be really nervous because we're going to, like, really deep into enemy territory, but we'll finally be able to get money. So, like, we're, like, level 5, and I have 800 gold pieces to my name. Like, just to give...
5 at the end of Book 1?
We've played a couple encounters into Book 2.
Okay.
You're like 3 encounters away from level 5 by the end of Book 1.
Trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that's a lot faster paced than Rise of the Rune Lords.
Yeah. Even the Chronicles are faster paced. Like, when we were given... Actually, that's not true. Carrying Crown was really fast. You're pretty much level 4 by the end of Carrying Crown, too. Mm-hmm. Carrying Crown is a lot of fun. It's Ustalavic goodness. The setup for Book 2 is kind of weird. Like, the things we're doing, we're all just kind of like, well, we're doing this because we're being told, not because it makes a whole lot of sense. But it's still a fun adventure. And the fights... Do you know what I'm talking about?
You may have failed a really important diplomacy role, then.
In Book 2?
In Book 2. So I loved Book 2. Book 2 was my favorite installment of Carrying Crown. It's the Trial of the Beast.
Yeah.
Where you are researching claims against the Beast of Lepistad, which is a giant flesh golem. It's basically the Frankenstein monster. And I don't know if I want to spoil something other than to say we were highly motivated to be doing all of these errands for the judge.
Yeah, we were just kind of told to do it, and we have a oracle in the party who's a juju oracle. So, like, she's all about undead, and she thinks that the Beast of Lepidstadt, even though he's not undead, he's a flesh golem. She thinks he's a big softy teddy bear and doesn't want him to die. And we're like, well, you know, the professor was friends with this lady, so we're gonna go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's very possible that we failed an important diplomacy role. I have no idea. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, of course. It's just, this is one of the fun things about the adventure paths. We've both played, like, I was a player in Carrying Crown, so we've both had the experience of playing this adventure, and you're just like, yeah, all right, we're doing stuff. And I'm like, I know why you're doing stuff. You have no idea.
I have no idea. We're actually playing it again on Saturday. We do Carrying Crown on the 4th Saturday of every month, and then we do Reign of Winter twice a month on the 1st and 3rd weeks. We're actually really good about scheduling. That's why I love my group. And Mortundos in chat is actually one of the players in my group. So he's chilling out. He plays I can't use the curse word in chat, but he plays a jerk Dampier rogue in our Reign of Winter game. And he is a grizzled Kelid magus in our Carrying Crown game. And I am Rustaf Fandicio, Paladin Slayer in Carrying Crown. It's pretty great.
How did you like Book 1, Hunting of Harrowstone?
We loved going to the library a lot. We went to the joke is, like, we literally, like, we sat in town and we studied at the library to learn everything, and we did all the encounters, and it was cool and it was creepy. And then we go into Harrowstone for the first time to try to finally, you know, beat the boss and do the dungeon. And the first thing we encounter was another library. And, like, everybody took the traits for, like, having knowledge religion and knowledge local. So everybody had knowledges. So we were all like, libraries, we can learn more more about what's going on and fight it. And then we have a barbarian in the group named Lenny, and Lenny's job was to carry Professor Lorimer's box with all of like the stuff you're supposed to deliver to Leppenstadt, because we couldn't trust it at home after we got attacked at home by the one event. So he was carrying it with us everywhere. So whenever we went to the library, he would just sit on the box and sit there, because he was an Int 10 illiterate barbarian with no worldly knowledge. And he was like, I'm just going to sit here. Yeah, it was pretty great.
I enjoyed Harrowstone. I found the pacing... All right, so I've got mixed feelings about Haunting of Harrowstone, because the first part I thought was very effective low-level play, which can be difficult. So it was like we felt in over our head, or actually we felt like we were on the cusp of being in over our head.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't actually a whole lot of encounters for the first part. It's mostly social stuff, going around the city, investigating some stuff that's not really going to threaten a low-level PC, which is everything else threatens a low-level PC. But it was always this promise of, like, there's something terrifying coming up very slowly that you are inevitably going to have to deal with, and it just never felt like we were ever going to be high enough level to deal with that threat. And then when we eventually did get to it, I do remember enjoying the final section of Haunting of Harrowstone, although it's funny, I don't have vivid memories of it, and I don't know why that is.
I remember the fights with the haunts in there were some of the best just combats in general that I've ever done. They were fun. My character actually grabbed one of the cursed items. It was the weapon there, and it's like, well, I have the choice. Either we're going to die to this monster, or I need to use this weapon. And I got cursed and couldn't put it down for, like, literally the rest of the book. It was pretty great. We had a lot of fun. And I actually still use that weapon even after we got the curse removed.
I
can't
oh, yeah,
say
that's
what
a
weapon.
Neil Spicer book, right?
Yeah. Like,
So,
do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I really do not have memories of the specifics of that adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I have memories of the feelings, and that's what's important.
Yeah, we've had fun. I have two really good GMs for both of them. They're great friends. They do so much work. I am so impressed by all of the GMs that I've met through Pathfinder Society. Like, even Mortundis, it's not Pathfinder, but he's running a game called Big Eyes Smallmouth for us, which is kind of like this super easily broken game that's supposed to emulate animes. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and take this map of Tokyo, and I'm going to erase all of the actual points on it on the Google Maps, and I'm going to fill in over 500 different locations on my own, and then, I'm going to go take it to a printer and get it printed, and so now I have this map the size of like a table to roll out for you guys to use, and I'm going to get it hex gridded, so now you can actually do your combats on the hex grid. I'm like, and I'm the one with the blog, people. But yeah, that's all that's been going on with me. What about your games? Have you gotten to play much?
No, I'm GMing right now, so my Kingmaker game is once again looking like it's completely dead, which is usually the sign that we're about to start it again. But otherwise, I'm GMing for Rise of the Rune Lords, getting a little anxious to wrap it up. So, strangely enough, the encounters for the last two sessions, not counting the one that I just added, I'm not going to say filler, but let's say an interlude, which I talked about in the last episode. So yeah, we've had incredibly difficult encounters, and my players are not used to being challenged by encounters in any campaign ever. So the fact that we had a highly lethal, or not a highly lethal, but a lethal combat that they had to run from 2 weeks ago, or 2 sessions ago, and then this past session, they won the encounter, but it was, again, a lethal encounter. Jeff lost another character. So yeah.
How many Jeffs did he roll?
Plenty. Actually, the main reason he lost his character was because he failed 2 concentration checks trying to cast defensive escape spells.
Poor Jeff. I shouldn't be laughing at you, Chapman, but I'm totally laughing at you.
He knows his lot in life. He designed his first character in this campaign so that he had to roll almost never. It was always like things like if his spells targeted me and I had to make saves, so his D20 sat there just calmly watching him and threatening to roll ones, but he tried to avoid rolling it as often as possible. Then his second character was another caster, and we did not really get to know her because she just died again. And the backstory was she was the first character's sister, but also that he didn't want to resurrect his first character, who was an elf, because it went against their family traditions. So now he's lost another character who he barely got to really scratch the surface of, but he's already established that their family does not believe in resurrection. So he's rolling up a third character now, abandoning that elven family who's just done him very little good. He's rolled up a Mystic Theurge.
Ooh, Anthony would like it.
I have high hopes for this character. So people may remember when we started this campaign, there was some difficulty with people getting to play the characters they wanted because there was some pushback from some members of the party to make a balanced party. So eventually, to counter this, I just flat out said, no one is allowed to play a healer. There. Now roll the character you want. We're not going to have a healer. Part of this was motivated by the fact that, like I said, they never are challenged by encounters anyway. So this seemed like a good way to make things actually challenging. Second was that I like them having to be clever rather than them just having all their bases covered. And this played out very well in the first book, as I talked about. At one point, they're approaching a dungeon crawl, and one of their options is taking the road. One of the options is taking the boat. They chose to take a boat, and then they had to make a climb check that the book specifically says is DC 15, not very difficult, but probably impossible to overcome, or very difficult to overcome for characters at this level. Except that we were such a martial character focused group that a DC 15 climb check was super simple. So this was a thing that most people who play this game have never gone this route, that my party was able to do this route specifically because we were not a balanced party. And I love that. I love those little things when things are happening more naturally, things are happening organically, based on what the party is, not based on, okay, we've got everything to handle every single situation. But at this point, even I have to admit, this has become a very deadly campaign for this group. And so having the Mystic Theurge so that they have some healing to help them out, they need it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Have you been playing much PFS lately? I know that you stepped down from being a captain a while ago, or a lieutenant, I don't remember.
I was a lieutenant. I never wanted the full responsibility of being a captain, partially because I mostly just wanted to be Chimera's venture officer. And so that's exactly what the venture lieutenants are for. But yeah, I stepped down from that position partially when Chimera closed, and partially because things were getting a little busier in my life, and so I wanted to have that one less responsibility. And so without me organizing things, there's been a lot less Pathfinder Society in Montreal in general, and I don't have time to organize this stuff. So the only time I've been really playing Pathfinder Society is when somebody else approaches me with with an invitation.
Gotcha.
One of which I played an online game of Core for the first time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I made a Core bard. I've had a name for a bard forever. It's Remy Fasola. And I finally got to roll him up because I felt like, okay, it's first level. I don't want to really commit to anything, and I want to commit to a complicated build. Who's somebody that everyone is always going to be happy to have in the party? It's the bard. I'll always know what I'm supposed to be doing until later levels, and by then I'll be more familiar with this character, assuming I actually want to commit to him. So with nothing more than really a name and eventually a Googled piece of art, I played, it's part 1 of a 4-part adventure from season 2, I want to say, the name of which is escaping me. So,
Devil May Cry? Or Devil...
The Devil You Know?
Devil You Know, that's it, yeah.
Okay, so I played in part 1 of Devil You Know, really enjoyed it, and then was not available for when they played Devil You Know part 2, and now they're scheduling part 3, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to miss part 2, or if I want to try and find another group that's running Devil You Know part 2 Core. We'll see what happens.
I got made venture agent out here. So I'm an agent. I schedule all the games at one store, which is fun. We just had our first I filled the store for the first time, which is pretty cool. We've been, things have winter is slow around here because In Philadelphia, you have the city gamers, where there are people who go to the same like one or two stores in the city, but then the region also covers all the suburbs like 45 minutes out.
Mhm.
So I'm out in the suburbs. So if it's like bad weather, holidays, whatever, people can't make it because it's too much of their times. But so this was our first day where we had like a full house, and I was super pumped. I just got my first society character to level 11.
Nice.
I have a level. My Blood Rager that you played with at PaizoCon is now level 11.
Nice. We're still trying to get our original, or our main characters to level 11, so that we can play the Seeker scenario.
Yeah. Well, that starts at
something
12.
left.
I got told that I have to do 3 more games before I can play Seeker. Yeah, my friends are like, "Woohoo, you did it!" Because they've been trying to get me to 12 forever so that I could do Eyes of the Ten with them. And then every time we record, Anthony's like, "Are you level 12 yet? You need to do Eyes of the Ten, Alex." Like, getting me to experience Eyes of the Ten is the number one thing, like, Anthony bugs me about. But he doesn't bug me about much, so it's not saying anything.
So we're actually going to be covering Eyes of the Ten related material in an upcoming episode, actually. April 6th. I was going to save this for the shoutouts, but since it's come up, April 6th, we have Tanya Woolridge and John Compton both coming back onto the show, and this is the traditional Pathfinder Society episode. So every year, we've been lucky enough that Paizo has asked us to help them break news and help them get their Pathfinder Society developers in touch with their fans for these live episodes. So if you're a Pathfinder Society player, I highly recommend you keep your April 6th free at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, so that you can join in, find out about the new Seeker arc and new options and all the news for probably the end of Season 7, maybe some of the beginning of Season 8.
I'm so hoping that they announce this as a tier that's going to get regular support. I'm really excited to hear about it. But I guess
it's about time we move on. Now, we've got some pretty crunchy questions from the forums that I've been wanting to tackle for a while. I think this is a perfect episode to tackle them because you are Mr. Crunch.
This is true. All right, let's do this.
We'll be right back for the no question segment right after this. Okay.
What do you know?
No questions.
You... no questions?
No questions.
You know questions.
No questions.
In the no question segment, we take your questions about the Pathfinder role-playing game, about playing it, about being GMs, about being gamers, anything that you have on your mind about the Pathfinder role-playing game. We'll answer your questions to the best of our abilities. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do it through our Facebook page, facebook.com/nodirection. You can go to nodirectionpodcast.com and click on the forums, which are now up and running, and we have a no questions sub-forum there. And you can email nodirection@hotmail.com. You can ask your questions there. Oh, and if you're watching us live, you can ask your questions in chat, although I have to admit that I have not been following chat as closely as I normally do, so hopefully I didn't miss anything pressing for this segment. All right, Alex, we're going to try and lightning round through some of these questions.
I'll do my best.
All right, Churcher posted on the forums asking a series of questions. First one I'll cover on my own. He asked, what intro music is played at the beginning of each episode of No Direction? He'd like to use this as a background for a tavern/inn scene.
Oh, good. I have no
Good
idea
choice,
what that
Church.
is.
So most of the theme songs on the network are original. No, the Private Sanctuary has gone through 3 theme songs. The first one was composed by Jay, and then the second 2 have been composed by fans, which is really cool. And Geek Together, which is pretty much retired. I should probably officially retire it. Geek Together is another original song, right? It's a parody song that was again composed by Jay. I'm talking about Jay Dubsky, the original Private Sanctuary co-host. But funny enough, for No Direction, it's the only one that's not an original song. We got it from freeplaymusic.com, and the title of the track is Last Song Home. Now, Freeplay Music will have multiple lengths of their songs, and I believe this is the 30-second one. And I also specifically remember that the longer versions sound like completely different songs. So if you want specifically our song, get the 30-second version. It loops very well. If you are curious, you can check out what the longer versions are. So it was freeplaymusic.com, which it's been a long time since I originally downloaded this song, so I don't know if it's still there. I don't know if that website is still there, quite frankly. But if it is, I encourage you to use it because I really do like... Okay, so there is something at freeplaymusic.com, but the site looks completely different. Looks like somebody more professional bought it out. Anyway, if you can find it, that's exactly what I was going for with this song. Just something that just feels like a travel song, something that feels like bards singing about their adventures in a tavern. Harem has offered to randomly play a portion of the song. The next question on Juror's list. What would be your favorite archetype? Alex, you want to start?
There's a lot of classes with a lot of archetypes. Off the top of my head, I really like the Lore Warden Fighter because it's awesome and it's fun. I like the Herald Caller Cleric. As a matter of fact, I did an entire blog article where I listed my top 10, so maybe we'll find that and just put that in the show notes because I'm pretty sure I would just repeat it.
Well,
The Warlock Vigilante is super cool. I can't say more about that book, but the Warlock Vigilante is super cool. If you're watching live, I'm like winking madly.
My favorite archetype is the Lore Warden Fighter, for a lot of reasons. One, I rarely take heavy armor. Now this is a habit I wouldn't have with the fighter. I just haven't played a straight fighter in a long time, even though I almost exclusively play warrior classes, with my preference being the fighter. But I don't like being slowed down, and in 3.5, they didn't have armor training, so warriors were slowed down by heavier armor. So I was always these guys in light armor, even though I was a fighter, and I was constantly soaking up all kinds of damage. The Lore Warden gets rid of your heavier armor proficiencies and rewards you for wearing the lighter armor. So it already worked for me there. But the other thing is that what frustrated me about the fighter is that there's the basic array of stats, which is high strength, high whatever, and your mental abilities. You basically, high wisdom is good, high intelligence is pretty useless, high charisma, yeah, because not only do you not get a lot of skill points, but your skill selection is garbage. So even if you were like, I want to play a smart fighter because I want to be a guy who comes in with a little bit more like education to the way he fights, normally there's no benefit to having this high fighter. You get to qualify for one feat that requires an intelligence of 13. Everything else, it's just like, well, you've just wasted that ability score roll. Whereas the Lore Warden is the intelligent fighter that I always wished I could play. So that's the character I played through Carrion Crown. That was Volter, my crazy gnome ripsaw glaive wielding fighter.
Wow.
And I loved it. It was exactly what I've wanted every fighter I've ever played to be a little bit more like.
I feel kind of bad for not getting more information then. I said Herald Caller, which is an archetype from the Monster Summoner's Handbook. Like, Cleric never appealed to me because I like playing characters that have skills, and Cleric does not have skills at all. And so, like, first of all, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give you 2 more skill ranks per level. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Okay, now I'm going to drop a domain ability for the ability to basically get rid of a feat tax for augment summoning and superior summoning. Okay, that's pretty cool. Oh, and I'm going to give you the ability to heal all of your summoned monsters everywhere, make your summoned monster list super thematic. Oh, and you could speak with anything you summon too, because you're summoning your gods' heralds. I'm like, that's awesome. You've sold me. I have a Herald Caller Cleric in PFS right now. He's pretty fantastic.
I just want to address John Bastile's question in chat. He was asking if the Private Sanctuary theme was from Denim and Leather. I believe the second one was from Denim and Leather, and the third one was from Doug Bush. I should actually give those guys more credit for their contribution to the show because they wrote us a cool version of the original theme song. So Thanks a lot, guys. Those guys are definitely the two guys that made it. I just forget which one made which. And yeah, speaking of skill points, I really like the way that the Lore Warden gives you more skills, because it doesn't just give you more skills. It says you get these 2 bonus skills that must be applied to intelligence-based skills. I had never seen that way of handling bonus skills before, and I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a really clever implementation.
Very cool. So you said that there was a barrage of questions. What's the next one?
All right, yeah. Churcher has a couple more questions, but they're about favorites, and I think I'll save the last 2 for Param. So let's go on to the crunchier ones. We've got Gitch. He wants to know when a character with reach initiates a grapple, and the rule states that you have to move the grappled target to an adjacent square. The rules don't actually say it has to be the closest adjacent square. And so his character, or his player, is in the habit of grabbing people and then pulling them to the most dangerous adjacent square, and then having something terrible happening as a result of this, all as part of this first grapple. His question is specifically, should the rule be clearer? But I think we could just broaden it to, what are your thoughts on this tactic that the player is employing?
I think it's super cheesy, and as a GM, I wouldn't let it sit at my table. The reposition maneuver exists for a reason, and there's like a Kai throw feat or something like that, where when you grapple someone, you actually do get to move them where you want in your threatened area. So if I was GMing, I would say that that's a precedent that what you're doing isn't quite fair. If you're being grappled, you're literally just being pulled to you. So you should go to the closest adjacent square. As a GM, you have the power to say that to your player if it's making it unfun for the people at your table. And if it's something that you want to see addressed, I would go to the rules form on the Paizo website, write it up into an official question, and tag it for FAQ. I don't know how long it'll take them to address it. They do about 1 FAQ a week on Fridays normally, but if you don't do anything, it's never going to get changed. So that's what I would do personally, if it was something that it was a problem in my home game. But as a GM, you should always feel that you have the authority to make rulings for your game, as long as they're for the betterment of the experience that your players are having. Because it's not always fun to have characters that take the rules and turn them into spaghetti. We have a character in one of our one of our AP games where his build is kind of questionable, and if I were GM, I would probably say no. I don't want to give much more information about it than that, because I'd like to respect the player. But you know what? As a GM, if it's something that bothers you and you think it's making an unfun experience for your players, I would say it's your duty as a game master to nip it in the bud.
So I am going to agree with your use of the word cheesy, because it is a manipulation of the rules. I am going to disagree with your use of the word fun, because that's something that can be argued. But I am going to replace fun in my answer with immersion. If the idea that someone reaching over is grabbing them and then suddenly whipping them back to some weird location that's always advantageous to them, it's not that it's not fun. It's not that it ruins the encounters. It's just that it can really hurt the immersion, even if it's just for the GM, even if the other players don't mind. I think it is worth saying, like, come on. I don't care what the rules say. Come on. So the way I always run it, and just assumed the rules said this, was that you move him to the closest adjacent space. I'm kind of shocked to see that he is actually correct. Gitch is correct that it does not say that. But come on.
Yeah. Don't be a jerk guy. That's my official word.
I'm not going to say that's a jerk move. I'm just saying that that's a guy who's looking at the rules and is not picturing in the world. He's not looking at things through the eyes of a character. He's looking at them as a rule. Whereas if you're really looking at them from a guy like reaching over, getting that headlock in, getting the collar and elbow tie up, where does this come in? That doesn't make sense.
So what's the next question we got?
McLeod asks on the forums, merciful healer. Sorry, I've truncated his question, so hopefully it makes sense in the way I'm about to read it. He plays a merciful healer, which is a cleric archetype from Ultimate Combat, and often casts Blessing of Courage and Life. This is a cleric spell that gives everyone that's affected a +2 bonus versus fear, which at any time they can choose to drop it to gain 1d8 plus the cleric level worth of healing.
Okay, that's pretty
nice.
good.
Actually, I'm just going to give a compliment to, there's a variety of these cleric spells where it's like, I'm giving you a choice of buffs, or I'm giving you a buff that you can end and replace with this. I think that's been a positive design choice that we haven't really called out.
That's like heightened awareness. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So there is a barbarian in the party, and the question is, can he choose to drop the bonus versus fear to gain the healing while raging?
So the real question here is, does dropping the spell's benefit require concentration? Because if you're raging, you can't perform any actions that require concentration. I would say that the discharge mechanic does not require concentration. Nowhere is it stated that it does. It's a morale bonus, which is something that blood ragers get while raging. So your morale is high. You're in this big heat rage. You have this great power. It's even going alongside your fear effect. Actually, it wouldn't stack with rage. So I would say that, the barbarian should be able to just drop it, because as long as he's aware of the spell that's being cast and is willing, he can do what he wants with it. It doesn't require him to actually focus on the spell.
Yeah, looking at the rage, the way it's written, while in a rage, barbarian cannot use charisma, dexterity, or intelligence-based skills.
Yeah.
This is not a skill. There's some exceptions, but it doesn't matter because this isn't a skill. Or any ability that requires patience or concentration, whereas I see this as the exact opposite. If you are getting beaten up, you're bleeding out, it's going to be an instinct. You're just going to be like, I wish I was healed. Oh!
Yeah. Or you could even flavor it and be like, "Roar!" and expending the blessing with a roar, and you get healed. Like, I feel like there's no mechanic jurisdiction that says doing this requires concentration. Nothing in the spell says even how you do it. You just get rid of it. And
no, it does actually. The spell says that the target can choose to end the spell as a swift action.
Okay, just as you choose to end it. Okay, goodbye spell. I'm done. I still don't think that would require concentration, especially since it's so fast. But that's my opinion. Obviously, whatever your GM says is what's going to roll. But I think it's like, honestly, for the level it is, D8 plus cleric level is not game breaking, especially since you're basically making your barbarian player use one of their actions to take the Cure Light Wounds healing. But just my opinion.
Scott Melville has a question about the Invulnerable Rager's damage reduction. So at second level, Vulnerable Rager gets DR/dash equal to half her barbarian level.
Okay.
The damage reduction is doubled against non-lethal damage.
Okay.
From Guarded Stance. While raging, if the barbarian is reduced to below 0 hit points, 1 hit point of lethal damage per barbarian level is converted to non-lethal damage. So, how do these two abilities interact?
They don't. The stance is dealing the damage to you. Since it's not a weapon attack, damage reduction only applies to things that actually deal damage to you through, like, weapons. It's the same reason why you can't blast someone with a spell and damage reduction won't do anything. So you would still take the non-lethal damage from the ability.
I'm just going to look up damage reduction because I didn't realize it had to specifically be from a weapon. I thought it had to be from a physical source.
Okay, I could be wrong. Like, to me, weapon and physical source is basically the same thing, because you're hitting someone with something, whether it's improvised or not. But even then, this is a ability that's dealing damage to you as a result of transforming another ability. Basically, this is just asking, can I make Guarded Stance ridiculously powerful? And no, it's not a physical thing that's doing damage to you. It's not a weapon. You're not falling. It's just a byproduct. Like, it's asking you to double dip the damage reduction, essentially, because it wants you to take away the damage reduction once for being hit, and then have some of it be turned to non-lethal, and then having that apply against damage reduction too. And damage reduction can't be applied more than once against a single source. Even if the Guardian Stance is changing how that damage is dealt, it's still the same source of damage.
And looking over damage reduction, it says that you either instantly heal damage from weapons or ignore blows altogether. It uses attack multiple times. Yeah, this is definitely from a specific type of damage, which is that you are taking an external blow against you. So if you are taking damage from something internal, like the stance that you're in, very clearly does not apply. All right. See, Alex, this is why I'm happy to have you during the no question segment.
You're welcome anytime, unless
Finally.
I'm doing something.
Bard Wannabe in chat says, can feats be turned off if they do not have may or similar conditional language in the text? Or are there many feats that are always on, even if there are circumstances that you may want to have them deactivated?
That's a really vague question, Bard Wannabe. I don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure, like, what kind of, like, an example of a feat would be really useful if you want to give us one.
Sure, but in the meantime, my instinct is yes. Yes, actually, yes is a terrible way of answering this. Can feats be turned off if they don't have May? No. I think that...
Oh, okay. Her Bard Wannabe's examples are Moonlight Summons and Shield Slam. Okay, so I actually didn't know that there was an interpretation of Shield Slam that you couldn't choose when to use it. Like, basically, Shield Slam says whenever you hit someone with your shield, you can choose to make a free bull rush against them. I actually did not realize that it was, like, a choice. Like, or I didn't realize that it was, like, something that was worded in a way that it wasn't a choice. I thought it was always, like, bull rush, and... like, at least for me, it always made it easier to assume that it was a choice because I always forget to use Rustov's Shield Slam ability. So, at least for me, I would say that when you have something like that that's adding a conditional modifier, that in this specific case, it's always a benefit. I don't see a problem with choosing whether or not you have it personally. The rules kind of make it sound like it's not a choice. So,
Yeah.
if your GM rules that way, I think it's acceptable. Although, personally, I feel that if it's a benefit to the player, like, making them use an ability they might not want to do is kind of, I want to say, cheesy on the GM's part. Like, oh, you have to bull rush him. Like, I don't think I should have to. Like, I can control how hard I swing my arm, or, you know, I can choose whether or not to infuse my guys with Moonlight. But if it's like a feat that gives you a penalty, I don't think you should be able to choose that. But I don't think that's super helpful. That's more of like how I would rule it rather than something ironclad. This is a good example of something that should be on the Paizo forums and get lots of FAQs. So all of our listeners, go make Bard Wannabe make this post on the forums, and all of you FAQ it, and maybe we'll see it in a few weeks.
Yeah, reading over Shield Slam, the verbiage is really specific and really weird about it. Any opponents hit by your Shield Bash are also hit with a free Bull Rush attack, substituting your attack roll for the combat maneuver check. So it's like, normally wouldn't this be from your point of view, that any time you successfully hit someone with your free Shield Bash, you may make a free Bull Rush attack? But I don't think that in this case it doesn't...
It's definitely not worded with a may. Like, honestly, all Bard Wannabe needed to do was say Shield Slam, and I would have understood where this was going. But, yeah, as a GM, my answer would be you can choose to add these types of modifiers to your attacks and your effects. From a rules as written, you know, browse, it basically says you have to do it. So, personally, when I GM, I lean on the side of leniency towards the player as long as it's not cheesy. But from a strict reading, it's probably every single time you swing your shield, which is sort of weird. But it is what it is.
Now, for Moonlight Summons, I'm a little less inclined to say that you can get away with it because it's magic. And I feel like magic really needs to be, like, strict, binary, based on the rules. So creatures you summon shed light as a light spell. That doesn't sound optional to me. It sounds like, yes, you've trained so that this is the benefit that they get, but now you're kind of stuck with it.
I don't know. I still kind of feel like you would be able to choose not to. It's like you've trained so hard to do it. I feel like you could be able to be like, no, I'm not going to do that this time. But I think that from the way it's written, you're right that you should have to do it every single time, which is really annoying. But like I said,
overcoming challenges is the point of the game.
Yeah,
so
but
this is a challenge that the player has set themselves up for, and that's just fascinating. That's just like, yes, I am a master of Moonlight. Anytime I summon a minion, he's infused with the power of Moonlight, even when I don't want it to be. And now, like, I have to summon and throw a blanket over him immediately. Like, telling a player, yes, this is a fact. What are you going to do about it? That's how you run an encounter. That's how you make things interesting.
But here's the thing, it doesn't make it interesting because it just makes the feat less likely to be taken, even if it would make sense for the character. Because if it's going to be a situation that's going to always hurt them, like then, like, hey, guess what? You're going to do a Darklands adventure, but you really want to worship the Moonlight Goddess because your mission is to get back up to the surface because you're all about the Moonlight. But now you don't want to take this really awesome, cool feat because it's going to hurt you every single time. That just seems lame to me.
I disagree. I think this is Cyclops' optic lenses. 90% of the time, you've got the standard operating procedure. So once the first time you do this, and the GM's like, that's great, except that now you've got this glowing dog or whatever, and it's attracting some attention you didn't intend to. They figure out to throw the blanket on it, and then if it's just always assumed you're going to throw the blanket on it, that's fine, until it's a windy day and suddenly you've actually got to make that grapple roll. It opens up more interesting options for the GM and for the player to have to overcome.
All feats language literally says that you get a benefit. It doesn't say you get like a challenge. It's not like prerequisites, spell focus necromancy, challenge. You bull rush them every single time, even off cliffs, even when you don't want to, even into vats of healing potions. Like, that just seems, again, I feel like it's against the spirit of the feat, which is supposed to be for something good for your character. And if it isn't good, then you should be able to choose to not use it. But I feel like this is an ideological thing that we're just going to argue about with the same logic over and over again. So let's go to the next question.
What logic? You're denying logic. There's obviously benefits to using this feat as intended sometimes, and sometimes you have to deal with it.
I'm not having this conversation anymore.
Let's say an alchemist has a feat that affects his infusion, and it makes it an area of effect. So sometimes you're going to have allies, or like it increases the damage of the area effect. Sometimes that's going to affect your allies, sometimes it's not. It just means that the group has to accept that you don't touch rogue skin, because rogue skin will suck your energy out. Like, it's just something that becomes a reality of how that character operates in combat.
So I told you that I was done with this conversation, but I'm going to get back into the conversation, because in the case of alchemist discoveries, you can always choose whether or not you apply them to an alchemist bomb.
Yes, but what if there was an option that made it that much better, but the consequence was...
But there isn't, because you can always choose when to use it, and your class abilities should not inherently be a detriment to you. You can choose to use them poorly, you can choose to make poor mistakes, but just having it shouldn't be a penalty.
I didn't say it was.
You just said, what if there was this thing that did this thing, that having it made your bombs do these terrible things?
Sure.
Yeah, and I just told you that you can always choose with the discoveries whether or not you use them. And so, but then you brought back... All right, I'm done. We need to move on.
No, this is an interesting... This is our last question, too. So, like, I feel like you're misrepresenting what I'm saying. Let's say you're an alchemist. Let's say it says you choose this feat. This doubles the... Like, it adds a d6 to the area of effect damage. Like, there is a benefit. There's always that benefit. But you lose the ability to selectively turn it off. Just because the flavor of this rule is that this is a super explosive bomb.
Okay, but there is a discovery that does that. It's called Explosive Bomb, and you don't have to put it on your bombs. You can choose whether it's on or not. So benefits, like when you get an ability that's supposed to be cool and fun, it shouldn't be something that's inherently bad for you. Like, you can choose to use it poorly. If I choose to make my bomb explosive and I throw it into a guy anyway, and I forget that my rogue buddy is sitting there, or I don't know that there's like he gets healed by it, like, yeah, that's a poor decision on my part. That's a detriment to me because I use this ability. But just having abilities should not make it inherently not work for you. It shouldn't be inherently bad. It would be like having ranks in stealth and then saying, okay, you have to stealth every single time, and because you're always stealthing, your party doesn't know where you are and you can't heal them. I can choose whether or not I stealth.
Okay, but I would see this more as you've cast Invisible on yourself, giving you a whole bunch of advantages. But also, if you get knocked unconscious and you're invisible, or if the wizard is casting an area of effect, I will ask that player, explain to me why you are selectively not putting it in that space that you as a player know an invisible character is, but you as your character have no idea because he has invisible to you as he is to everyone else.
Right, and that's a penalty from casting a spell on yourself in a certain situation. But you don't have to cast that spell. It's not like you're always invisible and you never know where you are. If you take Moonlight Summons and it works the way you say it does, then every time I try to summon a monster, it has this detriment attached to it. Which means, like, if I'm a character who's built around summoning, there's going to be times where my build might be completely shut down because I can't choose to take it off according to the ratings. It's not like I'm choosing to apply Moonlight Summons to my creature and then it's just a bad time for it because I made a bad call. Like, if I choose to go invisible at a bad time and it's a bad call, it is what it is. But I can't choose whether or not my creatures are Moonlight summoned according to this basic ruling, and that's what I think doesn't work.
Okay.
Like if you put a modifier or you take an action and you use it at the wrong time and it bites you in the butt, that's okay. That's when things are allowed to be bad. Like when I power attack against something with a ridiculously high AC and there's no way I'm going to hit it with the power attack penalty. That's okay. I made a bad decision to use power attack when I didn't want to. But it would be like saying if I take power attack, then every attack I made had to take the power attack penalty and to get the damage as a result. Yeah, it's sometimes going to be a bonus, but being able to choose not to use power attack lets me make more tactical decisions in the game, which makes it a more interesting option and which makes the feat less of a detriment to the player.
See, no, you're very good at saying this is what I'm saying and then arguing against what you say I'm saying. No, this is like memorizing your spells in the morning. This is like making a macro choice, making a long-term choice. You're choosing a feat. A feat has an ability. In this case, it sheds light, which sometimes is actually a benefit to you. And they're immune to confusion and sleep effects. Their natural weapons are treated as silver. So there's a whole bunch of reasons you get this. So I think we're both agreeing that you can't summon him, not have him cast light, but still get him to be immune to confusion, sleep effects, and their natural weapons treated as silver. Right? We're on the same page there?
Right, but I don't think that that's how it should work. You should be able to choose whether or not to apply the feat's benefits to the monsters you're summoning. That's what I've been saying. Because
I want to see if we're agreeing with this. So it has multiple effects. You're saying you summon him if you want this immunity to confusion and sleep, etc. You have to accept that he's shedding light.
Yes.
Okay, so we're on the same page there.
Right.
So the question is whether all creatures you summon gain these benefits whether you want them or not.
As written, they do.
Yes.
I'm saying that as a GM, I don't think they should. Because choosing every time to apply these benefits and the penalties, like, if you choose to apply it, you get the whole package. I agree with you on that. Like, if you're getting all those awesome immunities and you are shedding light and you are sparkling like a Sailor Moon Sailor Scout or whatever. But, like, as a player, you should choose whether or not you put the feat on. Like power attack, where you choose whether or not you're taking the penalty to get that awesome, sweet, delicious damage. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's how it works.
Power attack specifically is something that is turned on or off.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same page.
I'm saying so we're okay here. I'm saying it's okay that there are just all of these effects, and that, like, the fact that it has to shed light at all times is... All right, now let me see how I can sum this up. Okay, here are some of the things I would do as a GM. If the player is telling me that he thought when he took this feat that he would be able to turn it off and on, and it's not something we ever discussed, because to him, obviously he could turn it off and on, and to me, obviously he should keep it on, then we would have a rational discussion as player and GM, see what our expectations are, see what we can compromise there. That's something that I would do it, but I would not, like, that's a pretty clear rule to me, and it makes some really cool and interesting situations where you have to deal with having these advantages.
I don't think that's fun gameplay. I think you should choose whether you put the package on every time you summon. That, if I was designing the feat, that's how I would have done it. And that's clearly not how it's written. We're on that page.
And we don't know what the intention was.
Yes, we don't know. But I'm saying that if it was me, I would have done it so that you choose each time you summon. You get the bonuses, but you also shed light. And that's just my opinion. Because if I was designing it, I would be like, well, I don't think that you should have to take a big penalty, which is my monster now glows like a torch. It can be a penalty in some situations. I err on the side of flexibility because I think it's more interesting for players to make tactical decisions with the abilities they take. And I think it's less interesting if they get this cool, awesome, fun special ability and it is a huge penalty. But we agree.
Both motivated by fun and what's interesting. Our definitions of fun and what's interesting are varying in this.
Yes, but that's always been true.
Fair enough.
Okay. So yes, Bard Wannabe, you did
started a fight.
Yes, you did start a fight, but it really wasn't that big of a fight. It's okay. We're fine. Don't worry about it. Everything is okay. It is a role-playing game, says Bastille. No, but we are opinionated folks on the internet.
Well, this is a good example of why I object to when people are really quick to say "don't be a jerk," because as a GM, if I'm telling you can't turn off Moonlight Summonings, I'm not doing it to be a jerk. But if somebody at my table is like, I should obviously be able to turn this off and on, that guy was just being a jerk. It's like, no, I am motivated by fun and what's most interesting right now at the table. And it's a difference of opinion of what's fun and most interesting. Neither one of us is being a jerk.
Nope.
So just keep that in mind when people throw around the "don't be a jerk" rule.
Is that directed to me or to the people, or is that to?
No, that's a broad statement that I think applies in the situation. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you.
It applies in like all situations. Just remember,
don't
people.
Be a jerk. Yeah, but don't assume that the other guy's being a jerk because you disagree with them.
Yes.
I'm adding a rider to the "don't be a jerk" rule.
Yes. I think that's a good life story. Okay.
All right, we are done with our questions. They were not as crunchy as I remember them being, but they were definitely livelier than I was expecting them to be.
That's what makes it more fun.
All right.
Co-host doing Punchy Fist is interesting air. Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, we will be right back to wrap things up right after this.
Shoutouts, wrap-ups, and shoutouts.
Thank you for joining us for episode 128 of No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'd like to specifically thank Stephen Radney-MacFarland, our guest from earlier, for a very lively and educational discussion on the nature of evil. And for Alex Agunas for stepping in when Param. I am just mixing up all of your names tonight.
Yeah, it's fine.
There's me, and then there's Alex Anthony Param. Thank you for stepping up. I know you're extremely busy lately, and the fact that you were able to make time, all right, well, you can bat your hand at me all you want. I appreciate it.
Anytime. You know what? I might be busy, but I'm also a big ham who loves being on air.
Excellent. Yeah, it's in case anyone's worried, because Param and I have both missed a lot more episodes this year than I think all of the years combined. It's just a weird coincidence of some poorly timed power failures and some illnesses on both of our parts. Param and I still get along very much. Don't think that we're trying to avoid each other or anything. It is what it is. So before we go, there's a couple of things I want to bring people's attention to that might be of interest to you as Pathfinder players. First of all is a Kickstarter that launched recently, Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos for Pathfinder. Sandy Peterson is one of, if not the developer of Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game, which is largely regarded as the ultimate in Cthulhu and Lovecraftian role-playing games. It's very much a crunch lighter gaming experience, although it's still a fairly crunchy system. He is taking that knowledge of the Cthulhu, of the Lovecraft mythos, and bringing it to Pathfinder, which is cool for two reasons. One, because we've got Strange Aeons coming up, and that is not a Cthulhu-specific Lovecraftian adventure path, but it is a Lovecraftian adventure path. So if that's something that interests you, this is a great way to expand on that adventure path. But second of all, the way that he's doing this Kickstarter, it's not just for the hardcover book that you would expect. It's also for Lovecraft-inspired unpainted plastic miniatures. So a lot of the stretch goals and add-ons are to include monsters that are outlined in the hardcover rulebook. So it's a great way of adding miniatures that you can expect to need in Strange Aeons later on if you plan on running that adventure path. And while these monsters are often represented, or monsters of this ilk are represented very well in Pathfinder and have shown up in the Pathfinder Battles pre-painted miniatures line and are available as Reaper miniatures, having them just as here's a full catalog of some really gnarly beasts that will just mess with your brain just looking at them, like the Bokrug with his separate jaw along his giraffe-like neck. There's some really cool looking miniatures that are really this entire Kickstarter is just everything you need to run anything Cthulhu related for Pathfinder. Go. So I recommend people check it out if you're interested in either the book or the miniatures. Or if you're just interested in different ways that you could run a Kickstarter campaign, because I think this is a good example of all of those things.
Can we just talk for a minute how great Strange Aeons is going to be when it comes out? I am so excited. It was a really throwaway comment on a forum somewhere, but they made an announcement that just like they did for Wake of the Watchers, Paizo is partnering with Chaosarium, I think it's Chaosarium, the guys who make Call of Cthulhu, and there's going to be a whole bunch more crazy Cthulhu Mythos monsters from their company in Strange Aeons. I'm really excited.
That is cool. I did not catch that blog post. So we know
I'm adding things.
So we're getting horror adventures.
Yes.
That's the name of the book, right? So we're getting horror adventures that'll handle a lot of the player focus crunch. We're getting the adventure path. We've got this Kickstarter for more rules about Cthulhu and the Cthulhu mythos. We're getting all of these unpainted miniatures. We're getting the Chaosorium support. Yeah, this actually is already starting to sound like it's going to be a really well-supported adventure path, which is usually takes years for an adventure path to get this much support for it.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty great. I'm really pumped.
As I mentioned earlier, next episode is April 6th. It's a very special episode. It's our Pathfinder Society news and unveilings episode, where we're going to be talking with Tanya Woolridge and John Compton, both Pathfinder Society developers. And the one topic we know for sure we're going to be talking about is the new Seeker arc. So you and I were talking about Eyes of the Ten earlier, and how legendary that particular Seeker arc is, the one Seeker arc that exists right now for Pathfinder Society. Well, we're getting a second one. We're probably going to find out more about what's going to be happening at the end of Season 7, and we might get some hints about what's going to be happening in Season 8. If you have any Pathfinder Society questions at all, join us live for that episode. If you can't join us live, we have a thread going in the No Question sub-forum of the No Direction forums. You can go there and post your questions. We'll try to collect as many of them as we can and let them know what the Pathfinder Society players are interested in hearing about. Next up, next shout out I'd like you to cover, Alex, because I believe it was your idea.
I had an idea.
Intriguing April.
Yes, it was my idea. I'm so excited. All April, we're going to do another theme month like we did. Gosh, we haven't done a theme month since October, have we?
That's
October.
right. That was the
Occult October.
Occult October.
Yeah. So we're doing Intriguing April. Anthony and I are going to be doing a whole bunch of Ultimate Intrigue-themed podcasts on the Private Sanctuary. We're also going to be doing blog articles that tie into general intriguing topics. Not necessarily everything from Ultimate Intrigue, but as much as we can. And aren't we culminating the month with our review of the book, Ryan?
Yes, we're going to have the review of the book. We're going to have at least, ideally, we haven't cornered our guest yet, but the plan right now is to have a Paizo designer join us. I have a very specific one in mind, someone we haven't had in a long time, and someone who I have a specific reason to want to interview about Ultimate Intrigue. Yes, Ultimate Intrigue. For a second there, I thought I said the wrong thing completely, but I said the right thing completely. Yes. So
it might have to be a super long episode then.
Oh, it might be in 2 different episodes. One interview, one... Yeah. Oh, sorry. We might actually be having 3 interviews, 3 episodes in April. Even though there's only 4 Wednesdays, we're going to have to work out a schedule because we recently were contacted from a third-party publisher that is also going to be supporting Ultimate Intrigue in some very interesting ways, and I'd like to get them on an episode at least once.
Very cool.
Ultimate Intrigue, an Intriguing April. It's going to be pretty cool, I think.
Yes. We're going to have to pull out all the stops for superhero builds and masked vigilantes and all that great stuff. I'm really looking forward to. It's pretty much going to be an entire month of vigilante builds, but I'll see if I can throw in some different stuff too. I mean, I'm talking for iconic design. For all the articles, I'm going to be going over some of the cool systems, and Anthony and I are going to be talking about it too. We also owe the listeners a kingdom building episode because I got sick. So, yeah, it's going to be a great month, and we're really excited. I just have to put the banner together. That'll be tomorrow's job.
Well, you've got a week.
I never get time. This is fantastic. Any other things we have to talk about and shout out to?
Yep, PaizoCon is coming. Less than 75 days away.
Mr. Kaldemeyer, post the number.
I believe he's in chat.
That's why I said it.
All right. PaiserCon will be at the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotels in Seattle, Washington, May 27th to 30th. That's a Friday to a Monday. It's a 4-day con. Apparently, there will be karaoke with Stephen Radney-MacFarland. There are special events, lottery events that have not been announced yet. I don't know exactly when we can expect them to be announced, but apparently, Pathfinder Society GMs have started to get their assignments, which is pretty cool. So that means, or did you get special treatment?
I have no idea. I just got it.
Okay.
I mean, like, this is all new to me. I've never GM'd at a convention, like, at this size before. It's always been small local ones, so I don't know if it's, like, a big hush-hush thing, but I have my assignment, but that's all I'm going to say.
Then we won't dwell on it just in case these are secret assignments.
I think at least one thing on my roster is secret, but I'm not sure.
All right, well, we can't dwell on it.
No more dwelling! Out the window!
Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Alex Zagunas, also known as the Everyman Gamer.
And if you want to find the path, you need no direction.